first couple of episodes, every comment she makes is about herself.
It's so inauthentic. This is why she was never going to be more than like a D-list actress.
Also has this branding trait, but Meghan went the cheap route.
Meghan Markle, once known for her bold defiance against both the royal family and public opinion, is said to have suddenly collapsed during a private royal meeting just minutes after receiving news that King Charles III had officially banned her from the palace. Instantly, the incident was shrouded in a thick fog of rumors, an absolute silence from the royal household, and a wave of conflicting interpretations from political commentators and royal analysts alike. What exactly happened behind those closed doors? Was the shock Meghan suffered truly enough to bring her to her knees? Or was it all part of a carefully crafted strategic move in the calculated media playbook of the American-born Duchess? Was her reaction a raw display of genuine emotion or simply the next step in a chess game that had long been mapped out? Let's uncover the truth in today's video. 1. The context leading up to the incident. To understand Meghan Markle's sudden collapse during a private royal meeting allegedly occurring just moments after she was informed of a ban issued by King Charles III, we must first revisit the long and turbulent saga that has unfolded between her and the British royal family over the years. This is not merely a domestic dispute. It stands as a prime example of a collision between an individual and an institution, between personal ambition and the weight of tradition, between the American model of freewheeling media and the restrained customs of British royalty. Meghan was never the typical new bride who quietly blends into royal life. She was an American actress, previously married, not of noble birth, and most notably of mixed racial heritage. From the outset, her presence was lauded by British media as a refreshing breeze, a signal of needed change within an age-old institution. However, that bright image began to fracture quickly. Meghan was relentlessly criticized for her wardrobe, her mannerisms, even the smallest details of her daily life. Meanwhile, she herself felt isolated, scrutinized, and unfairly judged. It was from this period that the gap between two worlds began to widen. The 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey was the first major blow to an already fragile foundation. Meghan revealed that a member of the royal family had expressed concern over the potential skin color of her unborn child. She also admitted that she had once considered ending her life due to overwhelming loneliness and pressure. These revelations sent shockwaves across the globe, but they also sparked a divisive question. Was Meghan truly a victim or an exceptionally skilled narrator capable of steering public sentiment at will? The tension didn't stop there. In early 2023, Harry poured more fuel on the fire with the release of his memoir Spare, in which he disclosed previously hidden details about royal life, from the strained relationship between brothers to his emotional distance from their father. Though Meghan did not pen the book herself, her image appeared throughout as a loyal companion, even a driving force behind Harry's break from the palace. Over time, public opinion became increasingly polarized. Some viewed them as victims crushed by a rigid system, while others saw them as opportunists exploiting their royal ties for fame and fortune. What's worth noting is that even after stepping away from the monarchy, Meghan continued to appear in public discourse surrounding the institution, not physically, but through statements, media content, and reality-style programming. The 2022 Netflix series was marketed as a behind-the-scenes look inside the palace, but much of it consisted of recollections told from the couple's own perspective. The same question resurfaced again and again. If they truly sought a peaceful life in America, why couldn't they let go of the past? The deeper conflict lies not just between Meghan and the royal family, but in the clash between her demand for respect and her rejection of the long-established codes of conduct. Meghan sought recognition, yet refused to abide by the foundational rules of the very institution that once welcomed her. This contradiction gradually eroded the trust of several senior royals, especially King Charles, in her sincerity. Few know that King Charles had made several attempts to mend the relationship. Even after the Sussexes stepped back, he kept in contact with his son and continued to send birthday greetings to his grandchildren. However, according to observers, that patience could not last forever, especially as Meghan and Harry continued to air grievances in public. The king did not wish for estrangement, but neither could he tolerate ongoing harm from those closest to him. The issue is that Meghan has become controversial not only within the royal family, but also in the eyes of the international public and press. After her commercial peak in 2020-2021, marked by multi-million-dollar deals with Netflix, Spotify, and Penguin Random House 2024, signaled a steep decline in relevance. Spotify ended their partnership after the Archetypes podcast fell short of expectations. Netflix canceled an animated project. Brands once eager to collaborate began to distance themselves. The name Meghan Markle, once a viral force, no longer guaranteed positive attention. British media once observed Meghan wants the power of a princess, the freedom of an American, and the influence of a Hollywood star all at the same time. But the real world doesn't work that way. The royal family is a symbol of continuity where every action carries profound implications. And when that symbol is challenged, what's lost is not just personal reputation, but the integrity of the entire institution. That's why when news surfaced that Meghan wished to return to royal events in the summer of 2025, possibly even appearing alongside senior members, the palace was reportedly shaken. For many, this was not a proposal, but a provocation, despite the fact that it was Meghan herself who had once closed the palace doors behind her. Thus, when the private meeting was convened, many believed King Charles had no choice but to make a decisive call. And if the rumor of a permanent ban is indeed true, then Meghan's collapse that day was not merely a physical reaction, but the final outcome of a long chain of choices. First withdrawing from the system, then returning to demand acceptance as if no wounds had ever been inflicted. To the fateful meeting. While the media buzzed with coverage of the royal family's summer activities, from the Trooping the Colour parade celebrating the King's birthday to memorial events for Queen Elizabeth II, a closed-door meeting was urgently convened inside Clarence House. The meeting was presided over by King Charles III, attended by several trusted senior members, and what surprised many also included Harry and Meghan. It was in that very room that an event deemed unbelievable took place. Meghan Markle reportedly fainted after the king officially announced a ban. This was not a ceremonial gathering nor a casual family conversation. According to sources close to the royal family and palace analysts, the main purpose of the meeting was to clearly define the boundary between being a public figure and a member of the royal family in relation to upcoming official events. At that moment, Meghan was said to have proactively proposed the idea of participating independently, not representing the royal family, but still appearing at public ceremonies, a suggestion that instantly created a sensitive atmosphere. Why did Meghan want to return now? Some media analysts believe that as her personal brand appeal in the U.S. began to fade with podcast contracts canceled, Netflix projects falling short of expectations, and public fatigue setting in from overly familiar narratives re-entering the royal stage, could be a strategy to regain attention. But Meghan no longer held any official role, and the statements she previously made about the royal family, from allegations of racism to feelings of isolation, had never been clarified or retracted. According to multiple credible sources, King Charles remained composed for most of the meeting. However, when Meghan began making what were viewed as excessive demands, such as requesting a priority position in ceremonial proceedings, the king cut in firmly. The statement, believed to have ended all discussion in the room and also triggered the shock that followed, was this: Meghan will not be permitted to attend any official royal events in any capacity, public or private. The entire room fell into stunned silence. According to several eyewitnesses, Meghan's expression immediately changed. She gripped the armrest tightly, and after several minutes of tense silence, she collapsed backward, briefly losing consciousness. A personal physician already on site was called in at once. Harry, witnesses say, did not appear alarmed, but instead maintained a strangely calm demeanor. Meghan was then escorted out through a rear exit with no footage allowed and not a single image leaked. So what truly happened? Was this an intense emotional reaction to psychological shock? Or, as some observers suggest, a deliberate response, considering Meghan's history of using personal emotions to create media pressure? We cannot say for sure, but looking back at Meghan's public appearances, from Oprah to Netflix, from Hollywood-style photo shoots to vulnerable confessions about depression and exclusion, it is clear she understands the power of imagery. Sometimes a single quiet collapse can have more impact than an hours-long press conference. However, this time something was noticeably different. No cameras, no photographers, no media presence. The scene unfolded in a private meeting with no audience, no stage. If this truly was a performance, then who was it meant for? Or had Meghan genuinely lost control this time? Supporters of Meghan argue that it was the inevitable result of long-term pressure, the climax of being pushed aside, isolated, and denied any opportunity to make amends. A woman repeatedly targeted by the media, living under the gaze of millions, now rejected by her husband's family. How could anyone remain standing? On the other hand, media experts emphasize that Meghan has a history of using emotion as a potent communication tool. She has openly spoken of mental health crises during her time in the UK, while still projecting radiant confidence at international events. So was this meeting room fainting spell the breaking point of human endurance, or another calculated piece in a long-running image strategy? Another possibility exists: Meghan may not have truly fainted. It could have been a moment of temporary imbalance, a way to exit an uncomfortable situation while maintaining the upper hand. This is difficult to verify. The palace has remained silent. Harry issued no statement. All that remains are rumors and a sea of unanswered questions. Regardless of the actual events, this moment marked a pivotal turning point. It demonstrated that King Charles had reached the limits of his patience, willing to make a firm decision to safeguard the core values of the monarchy. At the same time, it also revealed Meghan's failure in her most difficult endeavor to return as someone excluded but unbowed, a symbol that transcends past scandals. And perhaps most telling of all, since that moment, Meghan has remained unusually silent. No new images, no statements, no appearances in front of cameras, no shocking declarations. Could that collapse have been more than a physiological response? Was it a personal warning that media influence can no longer save someone who has lost both public trust and the support of those closest to her? If that is indeed the case, then the room in which that meeting took place was not only the site of her collapse, but perhaps also the final stage where every last illusion finally shattered. 3. Harry's reaction. A devoted husband or a link in a prearranged plan. As news of Meghan Markle fainting during a private royal meeting spread rapidly, public attention turned not only to the incident itself, but also to another key figure present in the room that day, Prince Harry. As her husband and longtime companion in stepping away from the royal family and confronting the media, the public's burning question was, how did Harry react in that pivotal moment widely viewed as his wife's emotional collapse? And were his actions a natural expression of concern or a calculated move in a much larger, premeditated strategy? According to insiders who were reportedly present during the meeting, though their identities remain undisclosed but believed to be closely connected to the palace, Harry showed no sign of panic or distress when Meghan suddenly collapsed. On the contrary, he maintained a composed demeanor, approached his wife, calmly exchanged a few words with the private physician, and quietly escorted her out of the room. To many, this was the very image of a poised husband, steady in crisis, protecting his family. But for others, his seemingly cold composure sparked suspicion. Why was there no visible alarm, no evident emotion? Could it be that Harry had known this would happen? What unsettles people is the fact that Harry has been Meghan's constant companion in nearly every major decision, from withdrawing from royal duties to publicly criticizing the press, to releasing books and securing multi-million-dollar deals. So is this deep love or dependency? Is it mutual conviction or a subtle form of manipulation? These questions have lingered for years, and Meghan's collapse seems to have brought them squarely back into the spotlight. Is Harry truly steering this narrative, or is he merely playing a supporting role in a script authored by Meghan Media? Analysts have long referred to Harry as the heir without a throne, not because he gave up his claim, but because for a long time now, he has seemingly lost control over the story of his own life. Consider this in every major public statement he has made, from the Oprah interview to Netflix documentaries to his memoir, Spare Meghan's name is omnipresent. She appears not just as a spouse, but as the catalyst, the architect, the one who sets the stage. In most cases, Harry is seen agreeing and at times even accused of lacking independence, unable to step outside her influence. It's also worth noting that in Spare Harry describes himself as a man wounded since childhood, perpetually living in his brother William's shadow, bound by duty and tradition. Meeting Meghan, he said, felt like finding the light, rediscovering himself. But strikingly, that light led him far from the royal family. So far, in fact, that at many official events he now stands on the sidelines separated from his father and brother, even stripped of security protection when returning to the UK. Some say Meghan cost Harry everything, but the real question is, does Harry believe that? Perhaps the answer lies in his silence following Meghan's collapse. There was no statement, no social media post, not a single message of reassurance to the public, despite such communication once being routine for the couple. Harry remained completely silent. Some British commentators suggest this may signal Harry trying to step out of the media whirlwind, or at least reconsider his role in the narrative Meghan has long driven. If in the past American outlets were the first to relay their updates this time, there was only silence. Still another theory has emerged. Is it possible that Harry orchestrated the entire situation? A sudden fainting episode in the middle of a secretive meeting triggering global media frenzy. In a world where every word and image can be a weapon of influence, silence itself becomes the most potent tactic. If this theory holds any truth, then Harry is no longer the victim of love. Many once sympathized with, but a man who knows exactly what he's doing, willing to risk everything to protect his wife, or at the very least to preserve the shared narrative they've built together. What's more intriguing is the reaction or lack thereof from other members of the royal family. William and Kate remained utterly silent. Royal-friendly press outlets offered no clear commentary, no confirmation, no denial. Even the palace issued no official statement. This leaves observers with two possible conclusions. Either everyone has grown used to the Sussexes' tactics, or this collapse genuinely blindsided them, leaving the entire institution unsure of how to respond. For longtime royal watchers, this may be the first time their questions are not aimed at Meghan, but at Harry himself. Where is he headed? Is he still a true member of the British monarchy? Or now just a media figure surviving on memories of his titles and past privileges? Because while the world focuses on the woman lying on the meeting room floor, perhaps the man standing beside her is the one making the most dangerous decisions. In the end, the meeting that day where Meghan reportedly lost consciousness was not merely another chapter in her media journey. It may well have been Harry's final test. Will he continue down the path that has cost them both so much? Or will there be a moment of awakening when he finally asks himself whether the hand he's holding is truly offering love or gently leading him into a game with no end? 4. King Charles's ban, a final curtain, or the opening move of a new game. The British royal family has long been known for its subtle, restrained approach to handling internal affairs, even in the face of intense personal conflicts. Sensitive decisions are often cloaked in diplomatic language or executed through indirect gestures meant to preserve the dignity of all parties involved. However, in the case of Meghan Markle, what has reportedly emerged from the recent internal meeting marks an unprecedented shift. King Charles is said to have issued a decisive statement and order that leaves no room for ambiguity or double interpretation. Specifically, Meghan will no longer be permitted to attend official engagements and will no longer be regarded as a representative of the royal family in any context whatsoever. What could have driven a monarch known for his composure and his efforts to maintain harmony both within his family and the nation to take such a hardline stance? Perhaps it is the accumulation of continuous controversy that has pushed him to the brink. Since ascending the throne in 2022, Charles has not only faced the challenge of restoring public trust, but also the daunting task of steering the monarchy through the storms of the digital media age, where even the smallest misstep can snowball into a full-blown crisis. Meanwhile, Meghan, though officially no longer a royal, has continued to appear in media projects, interviews, and public appearances, often with thinly veiled remarks about the royal family. Each instance drags Buckingham Palace back into the center of controversy, one they cannot always respond to quickly or skillfully. From a strategic standpoint, this ban is not merely an emotional reaction, it is a calculated move to preserve the symbolic value of the royal brand. In a system where every handshake, every glance, every position in a ceremonial lineup carries symbolic weight, the continued presence of Meghan, a figure who has openly accused the royal family of racism, published memoirs, and signed television deals about her private life at official events, would create a deeply conflicting message. If she were to re-enter royal life as though no rift had ever occurred, could the monarchy still maintain its disciplined and dignified image? More importantly, how would the public perceive the monarchy's authority and internal control in a world where everything is magnified under a global lens? What complicates this decision further is its impact on personal relationships, especially between King Charles and Prince Harry. Why is it that only Meghan has been banned, while Harry, who also renounced his royal duties and has joined his wife in publicly criticizing the family, is still regarded as a member on the periphery? Could it be that King Charles is subtly signaling that he still holds the door open for his son, but has run out of patience when it comes to the woman he believes sowed division within the family? If that's truly the strategy, then it's a masterstroke, delicate yet fraught with risk. By targeting only Meghan, the palace seems to imply the door is still ajar for Harry if he has the courage to step out of his wife's shadow. Yet this very distinction could offend Harry's pride, possibly prompting a negative reaction, even a total break from the family. In terms of media optics, it is perhaps the most effective move to reassert control over the royal narrative, but in terms of familial bonds, it might be the final cut that never heals. 5. Unanswered questions. The story surrounding Meghan Markle has never lacked intrigue. From the very moment she stepped into the royal family, Meghan instantly became a fixture in every major news headline and media outlet across the globe. Ironically, the more she appeared in the spotlight, the more her image seemed to grow blurred and unpredictable. And now, following reports that she fainted during a private royal meeting, allegedly triggered by King Charles's official order, barring her from any royal engagements, the public has turned its focus toward a host of questions, many of which remain unanswered by anyone involved. The first question is, why does Meghan want to return? She once declared she was escaping the media hell of the UK, publicly described the royal family as a cold, judgmental institution, lacking empathy and full of constraints. If she was truly a victim, why attempt to re-enter the very place that wounded her? Perhaps she never truly wanted to leave. Maybe it was only about shedding the obligations while clinging to the aura. This isn't just a personal query. It reflects the complex tension between the desire for freedom and the allure of power. Next, if she was truly hurt, why does Meghan continue to appear at major events dressed immaculately? Sometimes even ostentatiously. Does someone seeking retreat from the spotlight walk the red carpet, sign TV deals, and grace the covers of elite magazines? Is she trying to heal, or is she strategically controlling the narrative through calculated presence? Then comes the question, how did Meghan react to being banned? In the past, every incident was followed by an interview, a veiled statement, or a media post. This time, however, nothing. No comment, no post, no video, not even a word from her legal representatives. So what does the silence mean? Is it a new strategy? A sign of helplessness, or the calm before a calculated next move? Let's not forget, Meghan understands the mechanics of media. She knows when to appear, when to withdraw, and that silence itself can be the most powerful form of storytelling. That's precisely why her absence this time feels more mysterious than ever. Maybe she's waiting for the dust to settle before responding from a position of strength. Or maybe she's trapped in a moment where any move could worsen her image. Another question looms: can Meghan still captivate without her royal ties? To this day, her public persona has always revolved around either being a duchess or being the one who walked away. Without that association, what remains a former TV actress, an activist who has yet to hold any prominent role in a major organization? It sounds harsh, but it's a necessary question. Does she have intrinsic value, or is she simply a byproduct of a much larger institution? And then there's the matter of public interest. Is the audience still invested in Meghan? The numbers don't lie. Viewership of the Harry and Meghan Netflix series declined episode by episode. Her podcast was discontinued after its first season despite strong backing. Harry's memoir Spare created early buzz, but quickly faded amid mixed reactions. All this suggests a hard truth: you can be the center of attention for a while, but no one stays there forever. And when the public grows tired, their gaze shifts elsewhere. Another point raised by analysts: if Meghan is indeed being cast out, will she dare to reveal the full truth? Rumors suggest she holds several undisclosed secrets, her last cards to play if every door closes. But the longer she waits, the more those cards lose their power. When the media stops watching, even your loudest revelations echo like whispers in an empty room. And the final question, perhaps the deepest of all, is Meghan digging her own hole in her battle against the monarchy? She may have lost her way. What began as rebellion evolved into branding, and later a tentative return attempt, once she sensed her relevance fading, only to discover the royal family may no longer be willing to receive her. Once you exit the system, you can tell your version of the story, but you can't return without paying a steep price. Meghan, for all her savvy, may have misjudged the capacity for forgiveness within a centuries-old institution. In the end, no one dares make a definitive conclusion. Because what makes Meghan so compelling is also what makes her so divisive: ambiguity. She might be a victim, but she could just as easily be the mastermind behind the storm. She could be worthy of sympathy, or she might be manipulating sympathy to serve a personal agenda. It is this duality between authenticity and calculation that has made Meghan Markle one of the most polarizing figures of our era. Whether you admire her or resent her, one thing is undeniable: Meghan knows how to keep the world talking. And as long as people are still asking questions about her, the story isn't over. The only thing left to wonder is, what will the next question be? And does Meghan still have the tools to answer it convincingly? And what about you? What do you think of everything that's unfolding? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your voice is truly the most important part of this conversation. If you found today's video offered a compelling perspective, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, so you won't miss any upcoming content where we'll continue taking you behind the scenes of the royal family to uncover the untold stories. Thank you for staying with us until the very last moment, and we'll see you in the next video.